Now that that's out of the way, all the attention turns towards later this year, and not just the presidential election, but the balance of power in states across the country. We're getting a sense of where some of these battlegrounds might be. So let's talk about it right now. He's Mike Joyce. He is the communications director of the Republican State Leadership Committee, and he's up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. Mike, good to see you tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I want to first of all just talk about one of the things that was really top of mind for the Republicans in Virginia last go around as we went into those legislative elections was the expansion and really the promotion of early voting. Absentee balloting by the likes of Governor Youngkin, many other key Republicans. What was the lesson learned by pushing that secure your vote effort?
Well, obviously, Republicans didn't have the night they wanted on election night in Virginia in 2023. But when we saw the results and we looked back at our efforts, what we noticed was our absentee ballot and early voting program really fended off a larger victory for Democrats in the state of Virginia. We look at a handful of races across the Commonwealth where we saw low propensity voters actually surpassed the total margin of victory for Republican candidates. And this is something that we want to implement nationwide heading into a very pivotal 2024 election. And I think the key to Republican success as we enter 2024 is learning the lessons from 2023 in Virginia and utilizing an absentee ballot and early voting program.
You know, Virginia, we're not looking at any major statewide races, but we are looking at several congressional seats and a Senate seat. I know you're focusing more on the state level, but one thing that you did pick up is that Republicans did make some inroads in a lot of these districts that President Biden had carried in 2020 by 9% or less. Republicans really, that's where you saw some major growth there.
Yeah, Virginia was a Biden plus 10 state in 2020. And again, very promising in 2023 to see every single state Republican running at the state level carry districts that were carried by Joe Biden by 9 points or less. That's a very promising sign. Heading into a pivotal election year, I think it makes Virginia more competitive this year and for more years to come.
One of the things that was pointed out in a memo by the RSLC was that this year could significantly alter the balance of state houses nationwide based upon President Biden's unfavorability numbers. And when you look at many of these states that you're focusing on, and many of these are the proverbial battleground states like Arizona, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan. You know, what's going to be the main focus here? Is this going to be about issues? Is this going to be about candidates? I mean, how do you go into this cycle and try to make the inroads that you've been looking to make?
You know, for the RSLC, it first and foremost starts with defending our GOP majorities. When you talk about down ballot elections, a lot of these races are won on the margins, and a lot of these lead to razor thin majorities. So Republican majorities in places like Arizona and New Hampshire, we must defend those states in 2024. We also need to reclaim majorities in states like Michigan, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania. Less than 10 seats across those three states alone could flip control back to Republicans and give us a check on out of control Democrat governors in those states. And then finally growing our base out in states, traditionally blue states where Republicans don't have a stronghold, but places like New York and California who have been decimated by Biden inflation, who have seen firsthand the Biden border crisis in their own backyards. There's a lot of opportunities in those states to pick up and grow our base of support in those states. And that's what we're looking to do in 2024 with the presidential calendar and with those battleground states. And we look forward to defending our majorities, reclaiming them where we can, and looking to grow majorities and chip away at one party rule where we can. The biggest thing to realize is that there's only 33 seats nationwide, which will determine the outcome of elections for Democrats and Republicans at the state level.
A lot of people tend to ignore these statewide races. Voters don't necessarily find these as quote unquote sexy as the congressional or Senate races, but these are crucial because this is where a lot of the legislation that people care about really starts to take form.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We consider ourselves to be the last line of defense against Joe Biden's failed policies. And we've seen the dysfunction that comes from Washington, D.C. Our federal government is incapable of securing our southern border. And you see a lot of states step up to the plate. Look at what's happening in the state of Texas with their border fight. And a lot of Republican-led state legislatures around the country are working with Governor Abbott in the state of Texas to defend the border since the inaction that we've seen from the federal government right now. And I think a lot of people realize at the end of the day that their state government impacts them a lot more than what's happening out here in Washington, D.C. And that's what really matters.
Mike Joyce from the RSLC. Thanks for joining us, Mike. Good to see you tonight.